it's really great to be innovative and make awesome games, but in this business, your employees are the company, and you need to know how to keep them because they are the most valuable asset you have. And I've done a ton of research and I've worked in the industry for 10 years, so I'm here to tell you a bit about how you can do that. Um, and this doesn't work. Okay, so this is me. I've worked with games since 2006. I worked at Avalanche, I worked at Paradox, and last year I started my own company with my husband, and we now have a co-founder, so 3 people. Um, and we plan to release the first game in like a year and a half. We'll see if we're gonna have employees after that. I'm going to tell you 11 things research agrees that a good workplace should do. I'm going to tell you 4 things not to do. And then I'm going to tell you some signs to look out for when you are an employee and wanting to maybe start working for a new company. How do you know if that company is a good cultural fit for you? Okay, the good stuff. The most important one is that a company need to have good managers, because a bad manager is the #1 reason why people leave tech companies. Probably most companies, but I've only done research in tech companies. So good managers. And often when you have managers at a game studio, you take the best programmer and make them be a manager, which makes you have less programming from the best programmer, which might seem like not the best idea. And also, we don't really know if this person is going to be a good manager just because they're good at programming or art or whatever. They might be, but that doesn't, it's not implicit by them being good at something else. So what we do need to do is make sure to take people that want to be managers, not just because it's a career step, because you should have an expert track as well. You shouldn't have to become a manager to climb in your career. But when someone does want to become a manager, you should have them train to be a manager. You should give them training. And if you are that person, you should make sure you get training, because it's not easy. When you're sitting there with an employee that just had some bad or negative feedback, you need to know how to handle that. And speaking of which, Stefan just told us that it's bad to have a lot of text in a presentation, and I'm going to have a lot of text in all the slides. So be prepared. I do this because if you find any of this interesting and want to look it up after, you can download the slide and maybe remember what I said. And I also have a ton of sources at the end. A good manager also need to have assertiveness and confidence, and they need to be able to build a team. So relationships based on trust is super important. And they also need to have mandate from the corporate, because if they can't take decisions on their own, they're not going to be able to be good managers. Oh yes, and make decisions based on productivity. Super important, not office politics. And if they don't play the office politics game, but are good for productivity, they shouldn't be punished for that. Now, to keep an employee, we have to start with recruiting the right person from the start. And this is really hard. But something that does make it worse is if there's a rush in the recruitment process. You're like, yeah, we need to get in someone to do this now. And that's not a good start, because that often leads to you recruiting maybe out of your network instead of posting an ad and getting recruits and get the top candidate. Because someone in your network might be okay, but the very best one might be someone you don't know. And this is also how you can increase diversity in your company, by not just recruiting from your network. And diversity in all kinds is actually good for the profitability of a company. Solid research tells us this. It's not something I make up. If you find a candidate and they are overqualified, you might think, yes, this super awesome person want to work with this, and it's going to be great for us. However, if they are overqualified, they're probably going to get bored after a while. And either they're going to quit, which is bad, you're going to have to recruit all over again, or they might start to just be bored and be less productive, which is also really bad. So if you do hire someone overqualified, make sure you have a plan for the person and make sure they know they're overqualified. You're really a bit too good. How are we going to handle this? Because I think you're going to start to get bored. Where do you want to be? And have a 5-year plan, not just for the overqualified people, of course, but for everyone. Everyone should have a 5-year plan. Where do I want to be in 5 years? And where would the company want me to be in 5 years? And how do we make the best fit of this? Number 3 is rewards. And the order I'm taking this in is based on importance. So rewards is really important. And often in the gaming industry, we have a bit lower salaries than, for example, the finance sector. And a lot of this can be compensated by, with passion, and we feel for the product and we want to work with games, but also other kinds of benefits. So don't just think about monetary rewards like bonus systems, but be a bit creative here and try to see what would be most beneficial for this particular individual and have a discussion. And try to be open for ideas on what kind of compensation can be possible. The people you want to have employed are people with a growth mindset, the people who know that they want to learn and they want to challenge themselves and they want to become better all the time. And stagnation is bad for everyone, again. So these are the people you want, and to keep them, you have to challenge them. And often, this is best accomplished by building from the high points. So if you have someone who's really good at something here, but they could be better at doing this, the thing that gives best results is to build from the thing they're really good at, because that's where they can ace. If you're trying to just build from the low points and even someone out, that's not going to be as good a result or as fast. So try to build from the high points if possible. Actionable performance reviews is super important. When you give feedback to someone and you say, yes, you could be a bit more assertive in meetings, that doesn't actually tell them what to do. So be actionable. Say, if you have a good idea, I want you to say that in the actual meeting and not to me after. Say it in the meeting and do that 3 times over the next month. Have it be measurable. This is also a really good countermeasure for diversity issues, because people tend to give actionable points to men and not to women. They get feedback on personality. So have it be actionable for everyone. Praise is something that Swedes tend to be less good at often, and it's really important because that lets employees know that you see them. So try to do something every day. Praise someone every day. If someone did something awesome, take them up on the stage and applaud and let everyone hear it. Sure, but also every day. Hey, great work on that thing you delivered. Or finally, you got that done. That's awesome. That's been on your desk for far too long. Whatever it can be. And credit the right people. Don't let anyone steal credit when it was someone else's idea from the start, because that's awkward and that's wrong. A manager should talk with people. You should know who just became a parent and maybe they want to travel less, but don't just assume it. Talk with them. Talk with people and really get to learn them and what they would prefer. Not everyone want to go to GDC, for example, even if that could be an excellent benefit instead of a salary raise. And really listen to people when they tell you what they like. all of this is a part of the office culture, but you also need to be mindful of how people talk with each other. One of my pet peeves is when people say we have a rå men hjärtlig attitude at work, like a harsh but warm attitude. Because that basically means, yeah, we like to be asses towards each other, and that's not for me. And a lot of people don't like that either. When there has been a problem in one of my teams before, they had a bit of a harsh climate, and then I spoke with everyone individually. It turned out no one liked it. No one was happy with it, but everyone thought everyone else liked it, so they just went along with it, and just super destructive for the whole team. So that just stopped then and there. And when you talk to people, have it be regarding work, and if you want to talk about things that are not outside of work, are you going to say something that's going to make them feel bad? Don't, unless you're the manager and it's about work. Then it can be fine. Compliments are also tricky. If you say to someone, "Hey, you cut your hair, that looks nice," that might be fine. But if you start to really dig into it and, just take it too far, then it becomes awkward. Just don't. So keep it light. Transparency is really important, and to communicate to your employees. Where are we headed as a company? What's our vision? Do we have a mission statement? Do we have goals? Do we have corporate values? And they should be something that can actually be felt when working there. So you can't just slap words on and say, "Hey, we care. We're six white cis het males and we care about diversity so much," but then it should show in the recruitment process. So it needs to be honest. Try to encourage initiatives. If someone has made something that was maybe a bit outside of what they were supposed to do, but they come to you and say, "Hey, look, I made this. Do you like it?" Don't just crush them, okay? Because that's going to crush their productivity in other work as well. If they did something that was awesome, let them know. This was awesome. I mean, you're a bit late with this you were supposed to do, so we're going to have to take that into account. But this thing you made, it's really awesome. And I think you're going to have to do some more of that later. But let's focus on this now. Because honestly, we are often kind of pressed for time, but still try to be gentle. And if they did something you don't like, don't just crush it either. Just try to guide them. Well, this could have worked, but could we try that again after the delivery and maybe focus it a bit on this instead? When possible, I highly recommend. This is what people generally need. They need to feel a sense of purpose and they want to feel needed and appreciated. One of the easiest ways to accomplish this is to give everyone their own area of responsibility. It can start out very small, but if they handle that, have it grow. And the person will grow as well and be more happy about their work. Flexible working hours is really, really important. For new parents like myself, it's super important because, I have to go home and pick up the kid from daycare. But also for most people, appreciate to not just have rigid office hours for no reason. Of course, you should be there for meetings. But when you can, flexible working hours is often very appreciated. That was some of the most important good stuff. There are more. But now I'm going to talk about a few bad things as well. So, bad managers, right? This is one of the things a bad manager can do. Play favorites. So always praising the same person, always neglecting everyone else. If one person on the team is really a lot better, like up here, and the other ones are down here, maybe you want to praise them all the time, but that's probably going to be become awkward for the really great person, and it's going to be very boring for everyone else. So try to see them on their level and see what they did really good for their level. And if you have someone that you can never praise, do you really want them on the team? Maybe let them know it's time to look for somewhere else to work. Honestly. Okay, public shaming. There are actually good ways to do this, and there are bad ways. So I once got an email in all caps, and it was CC'd to all the management team. So that felt like getting yelled at in the face, which is bad. I don't recommend. So don't do shaming. Don't yell at people when others hear. If you have to reprimand them, just do it in private. Spotify, however, has something they call a fail wall. I know a few other companies do as well, but there you post your own mistakes. That's the difference. You post, yeah, this week I did this super bad thing and it crashed all of this, and I'm going to write it here on a note, put it here, and then we can talk about it and we can all learn. And that's good. That's still learning from the failure, but not pointing fingers and yelling at people. Don't do that. It's not good. It's bad for the productivity of both the person you're yelling at and the ones who see it. Okay, this is a bit controversial for some people, so I have a ton of research on it. And crunch is super bad. It just is. It's well researched. It's bad for the employees' health, it's bad for their well-being, and it's bad for productivity. So just don't. One research topic I found was they had factory workers and they had them increase their working hours to 56 hours per week. And they did see an increase the first few weeks, but then they increased to 70 hours. And the increase from 56 to 70 hours per week was virtually zero. So all those extra hours gave it nothing. And even the 56 only work for a short period of time. And I have a quote here I'm going to read. When you keep our husbands and wives and children in the office for 90 hours a week, sending them home exhausted and numb and frustrated with their lives, it's not just them you're hurting, but everyone around them, everyone who loves them. And this is a quote. She was anonymous at the time, as she posted this as EA spouse. And it led to EA losing in court and having to spend a lot of dollars on withheld overtime pay and damages. And yeah, so don't do that. Crunch is so bad, it got 2 slides. It can be a good team building exercise for short periods of time and if you have a rather junior team. I mean, if I had a boss, which I don't, but if I had one and they would make me crunch, I don't get to meet my children at all. And, you know, I kind of like them. I want to meet them. So not having to meet them is a huge downer for me. But for a younger team and for short periods of time, it can be a good team building exercise. Don't do it every year, though. One tip is to base overtime on things that need to be done instead of hours. So don't say you need to be here 4 hours this evening. Say, here's a list. To get everything done, you should need to get this done by the end of the day, and then you can go home. Mandatory unpaid crunch builds resentment, also well researched, and it makes people quit. And not just your company, it makes people quit the entire industry. So it makes the recruitment pool smaller for all of us. So don't do that to me. Don't make people quit. Another quote here. Nurses experiencing burnout were rated by their patients as being awful human beings. Don't create awful human beings. And the last bad one, long hours culture. This is not the same as crunch. This is where people, they're very passionate and they want to stay and yeah, let's do this. And it might seem like a good thing. However, more senior people are more likely to have families and they need to get home, especially since it's not mandatory crunch. And they might feel like they can't compete. People are talking about stuff they did at work, 10 last night, and we had so much fun, and we got all this done. And if you have that kind of culture, these senior people might start to feel left out and start to look around. I don't want to lose them. I also have a few ideas for people looking to get hired, how to know if it's a good company. How do they treat you in the recruitment process? Do they value your time? Do they respect you? Because if they don't try to be really nice to you now, are they going to do it once you signed? I don't think so. The second one is the workplace. If you go there on an interview, do people look stressed? If they do, ask about it. Do you have a deadline like tomorrow? No, it's in 6 months. Okay, warning sign. Is the place clean? Do they have angry notes all over the walls? Try to get a feel for it. This is the obvious one, but really do. When walking in on Monday morning, would you like it? If you get to meet the manager, and you should, that's going to be the important person. This is the one who needs to really see you and see your accomplishments. So make sure you get along with that person. Ask them what people did before that they didn't like. Maybe it's something you do all the time. If you get to meet the team, really treasure that time. You want to impress them and get along with them well, sure, but they should want to make a good impression on you as well. Are they? Think about it. And also ask them how long they've been there. If the whole team is new, that could be a warning sign. If the company is expanding a lot, it doesn't have to be, but ask them about it. And job definition. Is there a job definition? And if not, it could be okay, but can success be defined for your position? If it can't, how will you know when you do a really good job? And as important, how will your manager know when you do a good job? The Employer Handbook. Smaller companies might not have one, that's okay. A bigger one should have one. Ask to see it, and if you can't see it, that's a bit weird. Are they hiding something? If you can see it, look and read through carefully and check for things that are not compatible with you. So if they have a no moonlighting policy, for example, that could be weird. Why should they care if you're a dog groomer on Sundays? Well, maybe they plan to make you work every Sunday, right? No compete clause is fairly standard. It doesn't have to be weird.